Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Thank you for joining us for episode number 381 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. It's a good one. I'm actually speaking with my associate attorney, senior associate, Anna Sergeeva, about an article she published for the recent magazine issue for the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Trade Magazine about citizenship, people having citizenship taken away because it was improperly obtained. Not necessarily denaturalization, but it's for people who are green card holders and didn't satisfy domicile requirements or residency requirements. And it's a really interesting thing. We're getting a lot of these cases, especially in the Middle East. So it's really eye opening, and it's just happening a lot. And once you get in a WhatsApp group for people that have this issue, then you're going to get a lot of cases from it. So it's good to know. And it's the business wise area you get into. But on the other side, it's a sad situation that could bring a lot of help. And if you're aware of it, we talk about N600K as well, which is like a nuanced area of immigration law. So definitely worth listening to for the practice and to get to know more about Anya. Before we start, I want to thank the sponsor for the magazine and this episode. You know them as eImmigration, Serenade. What if you could draft complex immigration petitions in minutes instead of days? While you're battling policy changes and growing caseloads, those manual processes are stealing the time you need for strategic case building. You don't need another paralegal. You need purpose-built technology. And that's a really big issue. We always hear we talking about staffing and hiring and firing and all that stuff. It's such a complicated business thing. The AI is really making a difference. The certainty factor from eImmigration by Serenade breaks down five cutting-edge AI tools designed specifically for immigration law, from multilingual translation to automated data extraction, intelligent document review. Wow, it's fascinating they're doing that. Created by the team that built the first immigration case management system, the guide offers insights directly from the pioneers of legal tech. Learn how to implement these tools in your practice at eimmigration.com/certainty. Again, that's eimmigration.com/certainty, and reclaim hours of your day while building stronger cases. Visit get.eimmigration.com/certainty. Link in the show notes. So that's going to be really important. This upcoming AI stuff. I already did some interviews about this, and the AILA conference is coming up. They're going to be there. I think that's going to be the big push. One is all the Trump administration stuff that's happening. It's driving more crazy. And then it's what AI is going to do to practice. There's going to be a lot of people boosts on that, but immigration is at the forefront of working on this kind of technology. So I'm thankful for them for sponsoring this podcast episode. A great team over there at eImmigration, Serenade by Immigration. Other than that, I'm going to be at the conference. Obviously, I'm going to have a booth. Immigration There's Toolbox has a booth, so please do come by, say hi, take a picture. I'd love to have you. Just get to know you in person. We have a lot of listeners, hundreds, 1,000+ listeners. So it's a good situation. I really want to meet you in person, so let me know. But do check out our magazine. It's out. If you go to our website iltbox.com, there's a link. There's a page over there that has all recent magazines, and we're doing new ones. So if you want to get published, and you get notoriety in business, and colleagues know you and communicate with you and refer stuff, just write a good article. Send me an idea for a good article that other colleagues would learn something from, and we'll see what we can do from there. And finally, I have this great marriage immigration course, like the best one out there, that really teach you how to practice family immigration, marriage immigration, from inadmissibility to constant processing to adjustment of status, studying the statute 212, 245, the 8 CFR sections on affidavit support, and how the contract should look like, all that kind of stuff. But we're getting out an EB1A extraordinary ability course. I've been hired to do that for a firm, and I'm like, okay, well, once I finish writing that up, it's going to be open for other people to do it too. So if you want to get into business immigration EB1A, please contact me, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, to get you in. I'll probably prep the course and do another live session. This fees, obviously, it's going to be a premium course, but you get on that live one, it's probably going to be a special price. And then that recording will be also be available for people who want to purchase that product. But it's you got to expand the practice and do fun areas like this. EB1A is really interesting people, so that's what I like the most about it. Inevitably, when I do EB1A cases, they take me so much time that on a hour per hour basis, I make twice as much if I do more marriage cases. But EB1, if you have a good system, you don't have to deal with that. I don't necessarily have a good system. I'd like doing it all myself. So bigger firms have writers and paralegals helping all that kind of stuff. So that's the efficient way to do it. But you do get a lump sum, which is not bad. But it's just the clients are fascinating, the work that they do, and you really feel like you're participating in the world betterment of the world when you're dealing with cancer researchers or top talent entertainment. That's really changing the field of that they do. It's just a fascinating area to do work in. Having said all of that, none of the information here is intended as individual legal guidance. Please schedule a consultation with an attorney if you want to talk about your case, but you know that already. So without further ado, let's get it started. All right. Hi, Anya. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, John. Thank you. Finally, after 4 years, I'm here.
we did have an episode where it was like Ask Me Anything. Was it for JK Law or ILT? I can't remember. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I think I was the interviewer. So now
Yeah.
we switched. Yeah.
For sure. So Anya is a senior associate of my law firm. So that's why we already know each other pretty well. But she did a great article for the magazine on a topic we deal with a lot at our firm, which is people who have their citizenship taken away. So we're going to get into things that practitioners really need to know because he was under Biden, this was happening. It's just going to get worse where people who think they're citizens have to take away. Not even denaturalization. It's just them saying you didn't get your citizenship properly in the first place and just procedurally take it away. So I wanted you to come talk about that because you handle so many of these cases. But before we start, could you fill us in on just your personal background, how you became an immigration lawyer?
So I've been a lawyer for I don't know how many years, since 2009. That's when I graduated initially in my home country, Belarus. I worked there for a few years, then I migrated to the US. And when I came here, um, I didn't know really what to do. I'm like, okay, I cannot do nails, I cannot do hair. I don't have any other things, that I'm capable of. And I'm like, okay, I will continue with what I was doing and what I was doing really well. And then I got this internship in DC for like year and a half, and then I realized, okay, I can definitely do that. And then I studied at William and Mary Law School for LLM program for 1 year, passed the bar, and then I ended up doing immigration law.
So how did you end up doing immigration law?
Um, so I went as an immigrant. I went myself through this process. So, and I'm like, oh, it's not how it's supposed to be done. We had an attorney, and it was terrible experience, honestly, as a client. So I was on the other side, um, and when I got my bar, it was like middle of COVID. It was April 2020. No one was hiring. I was looking for job, nothing, and then I decided just to open like my own small law firm, and that's when I found John. Um, you had a course. You still have the same course 4 years later. So I signed up. It was the best investment in my life.
Thank you.
um, yes, and that's how I started practicing. And another thing too is um, it's federal practice, so you have much less limitations here in terms of, for example, I'm barred in DC. The law firm I work for is in Los Angeles. I physically located in Virginia. So, and this flexibility about immigration law is great, and I really like immigration law now. After I got into it, you
Yeah.
know, it's challenging, but it's very satisfying. I don't know if there is any other area of law um, like that. Yes, we don't get paid as much. It's like corporate attorneys or like intellectual property attorneys, but there are other things beside that.
Yeah. Definitely. So yeah, it's great having you aboard, and it's really helped me. When I get busier, it's hard to pay attention to all the details, but your eyes are really good at asking questions multiple times from clients and checking their paperwork really well and catching the issues that I would have missed. So it's really good having like a two-person team
Thank you.
that goes at this. So I appreciate it. So what now you do H-1Bs? I mean, you expand in our practice as well because I don't do H-1Bs myself, but you're charged of that, and right now. You're taking time out of a busy schedule right now to come and talk
Yes,
about.
May 22nd. Yeah, we still have like a bit more than a month to file everything. So yeah,
Yeah, the conference
everyone who
coming up.
listens going through this right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough time. It's always like for articles and for people on the podcast, they always tell me, like I'm in H-1B season. I can't do anything right now usually. So thank you for coming. But the
Yes.
main thing that we ran into is I had a colleague of mine refer us a case where it was a family in the Middle East who had their passports taken away, saying they didn't get green card properly or citizenship properly. And then we helped them, and then it became like a consistent thing all across the Middle East, in particular, but other countries as well, where people lose their citizenship. Could you go over the whole domicile issue and residency issues that are not domicile residency and what's happening?
Yes. So the main scenario that we see this happening is when U.S. citizen parent who got their citizenship, who were either born in the U.S. or got their citizenship through parents. Okay, now they're living abroad. Okay, and they have children, and they apply for green cards for these children, and they come to the U.S. for a very short period of time. They don't live here. They get their passport. They go back to their home country. Okay, so by law, for children who didn't have, if they don't qualify for CRBA, let's say because the parent didn't have enough. physical presence in the US, right? That's
Hmm.
that's that's when it's happening. Okay, so again, they come, but they don't live here. They don't reside, and by law, among other things, you have to be residing in the US in the legal and physical custody of US citizen parent, and
Hmm.
that's the main thing that the embassies get these people on, and revoking their passports, saying that you didn't reside in the US, you didn't live in the US. That's why we revoke your passport, because it wasn't granted properly and you are not a US citizen.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good because they caught it early, because if the child under 18, it's still fixable. Okay. Um, so it's a bad and a good thing at the same time. We don't know what's going to be happening with immigration moving forward. We don't know what's going to be happening with these people, in 10, 15 years. So that's why in my article specifically, I talk about how important it is to file for certificate of citizenship.
Hmm.
If a lot of people don't file, uh, thinking that, or you don't need it, passport is enough. Well, it may not be always enough.
Yeah. And you take that password away, and you're telling me before recording there, you were seeing more issues of RFEs for pass from the passport office, like saying, prove more.
Yes, so this trend initially started maybe a few years ago, not a long time ago, when embassies started doing this. They were probably doing it before, but now it's more and more. And now it's even happening in the US, when people trying to renew their passports in the US, not even through the embassy. Yeah, I didn't mention it earlier. This comes up to embassy's attention when their US passport expires. They go to get their new passport, get their passport renewed to the embassy, and that's when it all comes up. And they see, and they just asking them, "Have you lived in the U.S.?" Yeah,
Yeah.
people say, "No, I have never lived in the U.S." That's easy, you
Yeah.
know, but it's very, very problematic
Yeah, I
after
just
after.
said like if it happens when they're young enough, we just got a case approved where we can still get the green card for the child. They'll come reside here. But it just last week we finally got the approval. But there are ones where the person's like 40 or 45 and it happens, and they have like they're married to kids, and then it's real bad consequences there. Then figure out what to do, get an SB1 to see if still green card holder. It then becomes a nightmare to try to fix.
Yeah, I mean, it affects their whole life, because
Hmm.
they live in their whole life thinking they're a U.S. citizen. If it was a child, they thought, oh, okay, after I turn 18, I'm gonna go back to U.S. I don't want to live in this country where I'm living right
Yeah,
now with my parents. And boom, they don't have this future anymore. And again, sometimes it's fixable, sometimes it's not.
yeah. And there's issue with delays too, because like if you need to do an I-130, the delays for that and constant processing, the person can age out from at least they'll get a green card. But if they want to get automatic citizenship, that'd be like under 18 residing. And then then the issue is like, how do you document residing? What tips do you give or recommendations do you have clients to kind of cover themselves? So 20 years from now, when they ask for documents, they can show they were residing.
Yeah, so now in this cases, we recommend, even after you come to the US, make sure you like rent an apartment, you live there, enroll kids in school, get job, like medical records, anything showing that you are physically here in the US. And we do recommend to have these documents saved, even if you have your passport approved already, if even if you have approved N600 for certificate of citizenship, because you never know when it's going to come up
Yeah.
again. A lot of people think once they naturalize or they get the certificate of citizenship, they're like, okay, now I can relax and just like burn this useless pile of documents, in my backyard.
Yeah.
But that's not the case here. Um,
Yeah, the next it's like how long? It's like I used to tell people, okay, at least be here 3 months before you S100 or we move. Now we're like moving it to 6 months because the statute doesn't have any timeline. It's just
yeah,
at the whim.
the law is silent on that. It just says you have to be residing again in physical and legal custody of your citizen parent in the US. And residing. They recently changed the I-45 form, and now specifically they ask days of residence. They used to ask about like physical addresses. Physical addresses still are, for example, on I-130 form. Okay, and physical address may not be the same as a residential address. Your
Yeah.
residence may be in a different country, and your physical address may be here. So again, and residence, it's intentional, I
Hmm.
think. And it's when you, I mean, domicile residence, when you make your home your permanent place, if we're talking about passport verifications, and INA 320, when you live here in the US. And again, staying here physically may not be sufficient.
Hmm.
Some people can stay here, for example, for 6 months and not being able to establish residency. And people being here for 3 months, and applying for after that applying for certificate of citizenship, they will be able to
Yeah.
establish residence.
It,
So
you know,
it's not always about the time.
yeah, the INA itself in these situations is if you're a green card holder and you come to parent citizen, you automatically become a citizen once you come in. But then, like, it's the CFR that gets into the more details of residing. So it is what it is. They want you to reside with the
Yeah.
U.S. citizen parents. That's
It's interesting issue because once, for example, heir to child, after applying for immigrant visa, right, they come here to the US, they stay here, they reside here with the US citizen parent, then they file for US passport or natural certificate of naturalization, I'm sorry, certificate of citizenship. On certificate of citizenship, which date they're gonna have their citizen since.
yeah,
They will have the date of entry,
yeah.
not like these 3 months
Hmm.
that you at least, or 6 months plus after entry that you have resided here in the US. At least that's what we saw in our cases.
The solution is complicated form called N600K, where if the parents know they don't want to stay in the United States, instead of applying for the green card, if they have the grandparents, for example, can satisfy the physical presence requirements, do the N600K, which it took me a long time reading the difference in N600 and 600K to realize the differences because it's a weird thing. But that's another case that we're doing a lot where we use grandparents' presence and then say the people are not going to move to the United States, they're going to stay living abroad, they just child's underage, all that kind of stuff, and just get them citizenship that way.
Yeah, but again, you have to have either parents' physical presence,
Yeah,
sufficient physical presence in the US, or the grandparents. Some people would not have that, and the only option they end up
yeah,
with is to file for a green card for the child, a 130 petition, go through the IR2 routes, and come here and reside.
yeah.
So sometimes N600K would work, sometimes it would not work, depending on the
It's
particular
convoluted
circumstances.
situation, yeah. And for the I mean, answer to K, like finding that presence and then grandparents having documentation to show how much time they're in the U.S. is like hard. Some, I mean, we have one case right now where the grandmother went to junior high, high school, college, and we have those records. But there's times where we got to like dig in deep to try to find something that's like old document of work or social security record to show they were here.
And it may be, for example, they resided like in 70s, in 80s, and they
Yeah,
have no records apart from, maybe they still have their social security records, which are relatively easy to get, that if they work. But if they didn't work and they, again, didn't save any documentation,
yeah,
which is normal, why you need to pile up all this
exactly,
all
yeah.
this dust collecting, yeah, in your house. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's sometimes it's tough when there is no evidence. And sometimes when we talk with clients and they're like, yeah, we were living in the US, but we have no evidence, they didn't work, they didn't travel, like,
Yeah.
it's very hard, very
You might
challenging
get
to.
a private investigator or like get LexisNexis searches and stuff. I remember I had one where we found out the dad had property in a previous marriage and the daughter didn't know it. But like through that, we found like wedding records from like Georgia. Okay, well, he was here on that day and he had a house here. He signed off the mortgage and that stuff was still in the record. So we used that to capture like some 6 months and a year of time here or there to really get it in. But again, it goes with the investigations. You never know how long that's going to take, which becomes a problem with charging as well. It's like, well, if you got really easy documents, you could charge little. But if we got to do hunting, you might need a higher investigator. But to the extent that I could do it, is just it's going to be a lot of work to review all these documents, try to figure out what we could use, or just try to
Yeah,
find something.
and sometimes, if there are no documents, we honestly tell our clients, well, how can we file, if we have no evidence,
Yeah.
this can get denied. So
Then you just gotta do the I-130, come live here. And it's disruptive because people don't want to come live here. There's like we have it sometimes where like the wife's a citizen, she moves to the U.S. with the child, and the husband and the other kid live back home, and for a year just to establish residency here and go to school here, just to lock it in or something like that. And then eventually like figure it out, but it's really disruptive to people's lives the way it's designed.
yes, and sometimes what we also see when we file, for example, the N600 cases for certificate of citizenship, and the USCIS argues that the child already was a citizen at birth,
Yeah,
not taking into account that the parent actually did not have sufficient physical presence in the US. to
Yeah,
give
that
them
was a shocking article. Now I remember that one. It was like 6 months ago, where they're like arguing. Yeah, they're like the whole point is they weren't living. Or else we would have got the CRBA. Nobody brought. They're spending all this money doing an N600 if that was the case. So that, but it's hard. Like, it just you get those RFPs. You're like, oh man, just created like an hour and a half of work like that. I don't have time to do right now.
Yeah, so the best practice would be to collect this evidence even after getting U.S. passport, getting certificate of citizenship, just to have it saved somewhere in the cloud. Maybe
Yeah,
it will be needed in the future. When they revoke passports, this is something we see often. I have not seen when USAS, for example, revokes certificates of citizenship. So it's a much better document,
yeah, big
to
time. It's just
have.
expensive. It's like we're $1,000 right now. How much is the
A
N600?
bit, I think, yeah, I believe it's a bit more than $1,000. Yes, and the thing is, US passport may not always be enough.
Yeah,
For example, some insurance providers, they request specifically certificate of citizenship, certificate of naturalization, or US birth certificate, not the passport. Governmental jobs, universities, some of them US
yeah,
passport is not sufficient for them to enroll at school. So this is an investment for the future of the child. And if you have it, yes, your kid may not tell you thank you,
yeah,
but if you don't have it, that's gonna be that may be
yeah.
a problem.
I was
So the best practice,
online filing is 1,335. Paper is 1,000. You have two or three kids, maybe it's going to be a lump sum. That's just unfortunate.
yeah, again, this is an investment. This is an
Yeah,
investment. And taking into account everything that's going on, with, for example, like voting registration. I think there's some bill or something that
yeah,
I'm not sure about this, but if you change the name, one lady was saying she couldn't register to vote because she changed her name and she couldn't prove the name change or something like this.
mm,
So it's gonna get more and more of this,
yeah,
requiring people to prove their identity, who they are, how they got their citizenship. So I think we go in this direction.
hmm. I had this guy. I don't know more about it than this, but this guy called me once, and he got his passport this kind of way. He was visiting Puerto Rico, and his passport expired. So he went to the passport office to renew it there, and they're like, "We just need to see a certificate of citizenship. We don't accept the passport." And he's like, "I can't do that." And they wouldn't let him get on a plane to come back to the mainland. So like, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do now. I'm like, "That's a bizarre situation. We have to have a consultation. I got to think about what's going on." But I never followed up. But like, what a nasty situation to fall in. You think you just renew your passport, then they didn't get it back to you, 2 weeks later. Um,
Yes, so,
Never know.
problem. If you have U.S. passport, it's already expired. It's not a valid proof,
Yeah.
of your citizenship because it's an expired document. And I think now you can renew it online even if it's expired. I'm not sure, but
They eased it up
before
to
this,
renew online. Yeah, it's something much easier and it's pretty fast too.
yes, yes,
I think it was after
yes,
the
but
pandemic they started that. It's like a year or something like that.
yeah, but nevertheless, I'm sure we will hear about more and more cases
Hmm.
where people got their passports revoked, where they get issues when renewing their passport, even inside the U.S. with the Department of State. So this is an ongoing issue, and I think it's gonna be only getting
Yeah, it's like a
getting
whole
worse.
sub practice area that's essentially I could get into. Like all immigration, you can just focus on this hyper nuanced aspect of it and take it a long way.
Yeah, and when I know some colleagues say, "Oh, you don't really need the certificate of citizenship." You know, maybe it was a good advice 20 years ago, but not anymore.
Yeah.
I had a client who he came to the US under IR2, and they just filed for passport and they never filed for certificate of citizenship. Now he went back to his home country, got married, had a child, and now they want to get the US citizenship for the child. But the problem is that the dad's citizenship itself, is there is nothing apart from the passport.
Yeah.
Now filing for the child will put his own U.S. citizenship, in jeopardy
Yeah.
because um,
Yeah, it's a nasty situation.
yes,
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I mean, this is like a I mean, there's hope to it because there's ways to fix it if people just act fast enough. But a lot of times people don't believe me. Like when I do TikToks or videos where I talk about like not be able to pass down citizenship through this kind of situation automatically, people get enraged. My comments are like a bunch of hate. Like, how dare you? You know, if your parents are citizens, you're automatically a citizen. I'm like, dude, that's not the law. I'm like,
Yes,
it's
that's
a human
very very
being.
common misconception, right? That people think, okay, if my dad or my mom has a U.S. citizenship, I'm a U.S. citizen automatically. Well, that's not how the law works.
Yeah,
Especially if you were born in a foreign country. Yes, if you were born in the U.S. For now, all people born in the U.S.,
yeah.
right, they're U.S. citizens.
And
But
that's
if
if
you're
you're not born a child of a diplomat too, like
exactly,
A1 level, top level diplomat or
yes,
something. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Well, thank
So
you so much for coming on. If people want to reach out, what's the best way they connect with you, Anya?
my email address, anna@jqqlaw.com.
Wonderful.
So
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I
thank
hope
you,
you come
John.
on more often. It was finally good to get you in on the show. It's been years. You're
Yeah,
like, oh,
so
next one, next
finally.
one.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate the article, Anna. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening. Thank you, Anya, for some coming on the show too. A great teammate. She was actually a marriage green card course purchaser. She got that to start her own firm, and she helped develop the course a lot by tell me the problems with it. I'm like, well, this person pays a lot of attention to detail. I need to have her on my team, and so that was that. But if you're interested in getting into marriage immigration law, I mean, it's wonderful. It gives you the ability to have a team like this and all the salaries, and also do fun stuff like Toolbox and have time for my kids and my family, my wife, and everything like that. It's a godsend that this area of law exists. If you want to learn about it, let me know. Just email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. It's for lawyers only. I haven't set up the paralegal course or non-lawyer course, non-paralegal course yet. But it's a godsend. But and then I was the bulk of it. I mean, you're paying for like a like 15, 18 hours of sessions and stuff. But it's really the mentoring, the one-on-one, where you can just get the information you need quickly on some things that it's intangible, or you don't know how to deal with a client, or how to price something, and how it works, and all that kind of stuff. Having the office hours stuff, that's really what it is. It's just the way to go. So I just highly recommend getting it and learning to practice based on the statute and the regulations, not based on cover letters. That's what immigration law, unfortunately, is all about. Cover letters, copying it, but we change it. We're trying to change the game. Well, thanks so much for listening. Until next one, have a good one.